Solo leveling. That's right, solo leveling. Okay, quick story before we get into solo leveling. I want to talk to you about solo leveling, my experience with it. For me, I know you see two headsets. For me, solo leveling was that manhwa that I originally started out reading, and when it was still new, it was like 30 chapters in. I read that when manhwa wasn't even a big thing yet. It was God of High School, Tower of God, and Noblesse. That was it. Those were the only like webtoons that were like popping off. And I saw Solo Leveling. I was like, what is this manhwa? And I read it, and I fell in love with it. It was so good, drawing wise, absolutely amazing. It was like the artists were trying to draw an anime, and it was the manhwa, excuse me, that I would recommend people go and read if you want to get into manhwa. I would recommend this manhwa to people that never read manhwa before, or is just an anime watcher, or maybe have read some manga and is mostly an anime watcher. I would go and provide them Solo Leveling to read so that they get into manhwas, because you're missing out on a lot. Now, for the longest time, I wanted Solo Leveling to be an anime. Like, for real, I wanted it to be an anime. It was the only manhwa that I was like, this has to be an anime at some point. It has to come out as an anime. I don't know, I don't care how they do it. It's gotta come out as an animation. Believe it or not, it did. It actually came out as an anime. What? When I heard this anime was coming out, and I heard the studio behind it, A1 Pictures, I was like, okay, stop. A1 Pictures is known for either not doing the anime very well or not doing an adaptation very well. And here's the thing, this is going to be a theme throughout this video. Addition is always and will always be better than subtraction. Never subtract, always add. And this is what Solo Leveling does amazingly well. They don't subtract anything. And I was gonna go through the manhwa and like read for you guys to show you that okay, the manhwa is they actually did it accurately to the manhwa. It's exactly like I thought the manhwa was gonna be, the anime was gonna be like, but it's not entirely. So a lot of what they added in the first episode came out. It's an anime. I was surprised by this. The fact that Solo Leveling could be an anime and animated this well. A lot of the thoughts going into this, thinking about it when it was announced, I was thinking, okay, A1 Pictures, they're not great at adaptations. But then A1 Pictures was also doing the Nier Automata anime and the Arknights anime. And I was thinking, shit, okay, I'll take a look at Nier Automata and Arknights, since those are coming out first before Solo Leveling. When I watched it, I was like, damn, they did Nier Automata almost correctly. There's a few mistakes here and there and a few problems along the way, but they got the music right. They got some of the story right. I was like, you're doing really well here. I watched Arknights for a bit, and I was like, okay, they got Arknights as well. Arknights, for those who don't know, is the mobile game about something. Look, I don't know the exact story of Arknights. It's actually really interesting. I just never really got into it that much when playing the game. But they did it so well. So I had high expectations when coming to Solo Leveling. And the first trailer came out, and I was like, yes, please. All of it was just top on top of the others. And I didn't, only the first teaser trailer, that was all I saw. And I didn't see anything else because I didn't want it to spoil the animation for the rest of the season. And they do show a lot of the season in some of these trailers, so I did not watch it. And so the first episode had finally come out. How is it? Is it good? Is it bad? Did they do the animation really well? Now, let's start with that. The animation, they've done it really, really well. So far, the art design of each of the characters that they introduced, we go through each of the characters in the beginning. The one thing they do, I have to reiterate this, they do a lot of additions. Thank goodness they don't do any subtractions. The one big thing about adaptations these days that I've been seeing all this time, they do a lot of subtraction and then they do addition. First subtraction and then they do addition of their own. This, on the other hand, did not do any subtractions. They did a lot of additions because, unlike how the manga had started, or the manhwa had started, they're already at the Jeju Island arc, at least this island, unnamed island from 3 years ago, because they mentioned it in the very beginning. 3 years ago. Yeah, see, unnamed island 3 years ago. Nothing about this island is known. They haven't said the name yet. I'm sorry if I spoiled it, but yes, this is a later arc. They introduced it in the very beginning. I was like, okay, pleasantly surprised. But this isn't the current day. They went 3 years in the past, something that they've mentioned in the manhwa itself. Something that was mentioned but not actually shown. They're showing it now, which is really good. I really appreciate that. And they go through each of the S ranks so early on. Now, I'm not going to spoil the entire episode, but they do a lot of additions. This is what I'm trying to give you. This whole section here where they introduce some of the S ranks and they introduce this unnamed island with ant monsters on it was an addition that wasn't in the original manhwa, because the original manhwa would immediately start out at his dungeon, the main character's first, or not first, but most dangerous dungeon. Now, the way they did the animation was spectacular. I could not even believe it. The animation was top tier. They did it. They got it. They actually made it work. Now I really, really hope they keep up this quality, because there was another manhwa that was airing last season. For those who don't know, manhwa isn't really popular with animating studios, okay? A lot of manhwas don't get animations. The only ones that really did was God of High School, which really flopped because they cut half a portion of the anime out. That's what I mean. Subtraction, very bad. Addition, always good. Nobilis, which I haven't seen fully, but at least the first episode and the original OVA episode were not too bad. Tower of God, I didn't watch the entirety of it, but I saw a lot of things that were like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Do I have to actually read the manhwa to know what's going on? And then Lookism. Well, at least Lookism came out alright, even though the art style was so weird. But other than that, those were mostly the most popular manhwas that ever got an adaptation. So the real popular manhwa that really needed an animation was Solo Leveling, and they really needed good animation. However, there was one other manhwa that actually got an adaptation. A Return is Magic Should Be Special. It's a really popular manhwa amongst manhwa readers. We all manhwa readers know about Return is Magic Should Be Special. The one annoying part about Return is Magic Should Be Special is there was no animation. It was literally like reading the webtoon. Still images. It really pissed me off when I was watching this, and I really like this manhwa. And I was hoping for great animation, because this manhwa has a really great story. In-depth characters. They go very far with these characters. The characters' stories are so good. They go through major arcs. Like even characters like Azest goes through a major arc. This is the first time. This is an early episode, but she goes through a major arc, and it's all great. For those who know what I'm talking about will know that Return Magic Should Be Special is actually a really good manhwa. However, the animation was extremely poor. The first episode had decently good animation. I was like, okay, this is not too bad. But then every episode afterwards just kept failing and failing and failing, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. It never got any better because it was mostly still images. The art style was there, but the animation was just non-existent. And so, the one thing I really hope for Solo Leveling is that they actually keep this level of animation. They keep the level there. They don't diminish it. It is there throughout the entire show. Because there are some really great fights that really would work with an animation. With this kind of animation. With the expressive and every bit and pieces moving, because they had some great animation sequences where it was animated really well. I didn't expect this to actually happen so well. Like, look at this, not still images. That's why I'm really excited for this anime. It's why I think, yes, they did a great job. They succeeded. But I really hope that it continues. They actually get better. Another thing that I really hope from this phenomenon of Solo Leveling being so good is that more manhwas start getting adaptations. One thing I really hope for the manhwa community is that they get more animations. Solo Leveling is just the first. It's the one I recommend to anybody starting out reading manhwa, is to read Solo Leveling. But now you don't have to read it, just watch it, because there's an anime of it, which is really exciting to see. One interesting aspect about the manhwa is that this is a Korean story. The manhwa is not exactly English or Japanese for that matter. So when they are speaking Japanese, and one thing I really liked that they kept was they didn't have them actually giving them non-Korean names, because this still is Korea. They just didn't mention it is Korea. But they're all calling each other Korean names. For example, they would still call Sung Jin-woo, or Byung-gu being the healer, the S rank healer. He's still called Byung-gu. They say Byung-gu, but they will say it with like Sung-kun or whatever, and it's really strange to me at first, but I'd eventually get used to it. I just hope there's like a Korean dub of this, that way it sounds more natural in that way. That's what makes it so good so far. But anyways, that is Solo Leveling's first episode. I'm not gonna. My review on the first episode is that they did a lot of additions, which is good, and very little subtractions. They didn't do many subtractions at all. It didn't seem like they didn't actually subtract. They just added, and they ended the first episode in a good spot, which is, for those who read the manhwa and watched the episode, I would recommend you go and now watch the episode actually. And they ended it on a really good spot, which is, I thought they would go on a little bit more, but ending it right there is actually perfect, because now the next episode would be the conclusion of that arc, which is great. But anyways, that is it for my small review of the first episode. I'll be covering the entire, each episode, whatever's like popping off. The next episode pops off, I'm going to talk about it. I really hope you see more of Solo Leveling, because, or more of this phenomenon where more manhwas would become animations, because there are some manhwas. Okay, Legend of the Northern Blade, for those who know, they know what I'm talking about. It's an insane manhwa. The art style of it is literally an animation. It's literally anime. The fights are anime. But we're never gonna see it until this succeeds. If it does, and I'm really hoping it does, this is just the first episode, and they did a lot of additions, which was great. I'm not going to explain what the additions are, I don't want to spoil it. Go watch for yourself. It's actually pretty good. It's a really, really good episode. The additions are great, but I hope they keep up this trend throughout the show. We'll see what happens in episode 2. But that's going to be it for episode 1.